The verdict of fools. The Assembly's decision. The Grand Assembly Hall stretched before engineer Marcus Webb like a cathedral of judgment. Towers of crystalline architecture reached toward artificial stars, and representatives from 47 species watched him from their elevated platforms. Each alien face showed something different: contempt, fear, satisfaction, uncertainty. But Marcus kept his expression neutral, his hands steady at his sides. "The assembly has reached its conclusion," announced Prelate Theron, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. The Zorvian's voice echoed through translation fields that made every species hear his words in their own language. "For 300 cycles, humanity has served as chief engineers of the Galactic Infrastructure Network. Your innovations have connected our worlds, your designs have sustained our civilizations." Marcus waited. He knew what was coming. You didn't live among aliens for 30 years without learning to read the silence before a fall. However, Theron continued, his tone shifting like metal scraping stone, your methods have become increasingly unorthodox. Your insistence on redundant systems, your paranoid backup protocols, your refusal to optimize for maximum efficiency, these behaviors have created concern among member states. From the Nexary platform, Ambassador Kellex hissed through her translator. Your people build as though expecting catastrophe at every turn. It is wasteful. It is primitive thinking. Marcus met her triple eyes calmly. We call it being prepared. You call it paranoia, snapped Commander Brex of the Therian Unity, his scales rippling with irritation. Your designs require 3 times the resources of standard specifications. The Assembly has determined that humanity's continued role in galactic infrastructure represents an inefficient use of collective resources. The words landed like hammers, formal and final. Theron raised one clawed hand. Therefore, by majority vote, humanity is hereby relieved of all engineering authority within Assembly space. Effective immediately, your contracts are terminated. Your access to Assembly systems is revoked. Marcus stood silent for 3 full seconds. Around the chamber, delegates shifted, waiting for the human response. Humans were known for their emotions, surely there would be protest, anger, demands for reconsideration. Instead, Marcus simply nodded once. Understood. The Assembly's decision is acknowledged. Confusion rippled through the hall like wind through grass. That's all you have to say? Theron asked, unable to hide his surprise. What would you like me to say, Prelate? The Assembly has made its choice. Earth respects that sovereignty. Marcus gestured toward the massive holographic display showing the Galactic Infrastructure Network, the thousands of stations, relay hubs, power grids, and transit systems humanity had built or rebuilt over 3 centuries. We'll begin transfer protocols immediately. Full documentation of all systems, access codes, maintenance schedules, everything. You'll have complete control within 72 hours. Ambassador Kellex leaned forward, suspicion evident in her posture. No demands? No negotiations? None. Though I would recommend keeping our maintenance protocols in place. Redundancy isn't paranoia when it saves lives. We will optimize them properly, Commander Brex said dismissively. Without human overcomplications. Marcus almost smiled but caught himself. Of course. One thing, though. The chamber held its breath. Since Earth is no longer bound by Assembly infrastructure agreements, we'll be withdrawing from all shared systems. The stations humanity built with our own resources, the relay networks funded by Earth, the backup grids we installed at our expense, those come with us. Theron's eyes widened. That would destabilize. Only temporarily, Marcus assured him. You have 3 cycles to integrate replacement systems. More than enough time for species as advanced as yourselves. We're not trying to cause problems. We're simply exercising the same sovereignty the Assembly just invoked. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Dozens of critical systems suddenly became questionable. Which infrastructures were truly Assembly property and which had humanity poured resources into beyond their contracted obligations? From a smaller platform, Elder Mira of the Quillen Collective spoke for the first time, her voice gentle but heavy with concern. Engineer Webb, perhaps this decision was made in haste. Perhaps if we reviewed. Elder Mira, Marcus interrupted politely, the Assembly has spoken. Earth has no interest in remaining where we're not wanted. We'll return to our own space. We wish you all the best. He performed a small bow, a human gesture most species recognized as respectful farewell, and turned toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. The long walk home. The corridor outside the assembly hall felt colder than Marcus remembered. Or perhaps that was just the weight of what had happened settling onto his shoulders. He'd known this was coming for months, the complaints had been building, the political pressure mounting. Species who'd grown comfortable with peace had forgotten why humans built the way they did. His communicator buzzed. Director Sarah Chen's face appeared in holographic miniature. I watched the feed. How are you holding up? I'm fine. They went exactly as predicted. That doesn't make it easier. Sarah's expression was sympathetic but professional. She'd been overseeing Earth's infrastructure operations for 15 years, long enough to know what this meant. Transit ship is waiting at Docking Bay 7. We'll have you home within the week. And the withdrawal protocols? Already initiated. Engineering teams are pulling our proprietary systems as we speak. The Assembly's going to have some interesting surprises when they realize how much of their optimized network was running on human backup systems. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. We did warn them. We did. They didn't listen. Their choice. Sarah paused. Marcus, the Quillen sent a private message. Elder Mira wants to meet. She's suggesting a compromise. No compromises, Sarah. The Assembly made its decision. Now they live with it. Understood. Safe travels, Marcus. The hologram faded. Marcus continued down the corridor, passing maintenance panels he'd personally designed, power conduits he'd helped install, structural supports calculated to withstand forces the original architects had dismissed as unlikely scenarios. 300 years of human engineering, dismissed as paranoid overcomplications. They'd learn. Humanity's return. The transport ship Phoenix carried Marcus and the last of Earth's engineering staff away from assembly space. Behind them, carefully coordinated teams dismantled human-built systems, extracted proprietary technology, and transferred only the bare minimum required by terminated contracts. Marcus stood at the observation deck, watching alien stations shrink into distant lights. Around him, young engineers, men and women who'd spent their entire careers building for the Assembly, struggled with what they were feeling. Sir, a junior engineer named Kayla approached hesitantly, was it worth it? All those years? Marcus turned to her. She couldn't have been more than 30, her entire professional life spent in service to species who'd just called her work wasteful. Every bridge we built still stands, Marcus said quietly. Every station we designed still protects the people inside it. Every system we created still does its job. The Assembly can dismiss our methods, but they can't dismiss our results. And when the next crisis comes, and it will come, they'll remember why we built the way we did. You think there'll be a crisis? Kayla, there's always a crisis. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Peaceful times make people forget that. He gestured toward the stars beyond the viewport. We didn't build redundancy because we were paranoid. We built it because we remembered history. Because humans have seen what happens when systems fail at the worst possible moment. And now? Now we go home. We build for ourselves. We maintain our standards. And we wait. For what? Marcus's expression was calm, but his eyes held something harder. For the inevitable moment when they realize that efficiency without resilience is just a faster way to fail. The Phoenix jumped to faster-than-light travel, and assembly space disappeared behind them. Ahead lay Earth, humanity's networks, systems built to human standards with human philosophy embedded in every circuit and support beam. The assembly had chosen optimization over preparation. They'd chosen efficiency over resilience. They'd chosen to forget the lessons humanity had learned through centuries of hardship. Marcus wondered how long it would take them to remember those lessons the hard way. 6 months, he guessed. Maybe a year. The galaxy was patient, but it was never kind when the lights went out. The first collapse. The crisis began with something small, a fluctuation in the Nexari prime power grid, barely noticeable, well within normal parameters. Chief Technical Officer Vexen dismissed the alert with irritation. Humans would have flagged this as urgent, but humans built for problems that never happened. The Assembly's new efficiency protocols had eliminated such wasteful overcautions. 3 days later, Nexari Prime's primary power station experienced a cascade failure. The station, an elegant structure of crystalline energy matrices optimized by assembly engineers after removing unnecessary human redundancies, flickered once. Then darkness swallowed 3 billion Nexari across their homeworld. Emergency systems activated, but they'd been streamlined too. Backup power lasted 16 hours instead of the 72 hours human designs provided. When those reserves depleted, hospitals lost life support, environmental controls failed, and panic spread through cities designed for perpetual light. Ambassador Kellick stood in the darkened assembly hall, her voice sharp with barely controlled fear. This was a minor malfunction. Our engineers said the optimized design would handle normal variations. It was supposed to, admitted lead engineer Torn of the Therian Unity, reviewing data on emergency displays. But the failure propagated through primary, secondary, and tertiary systems. If the old human backup network was still. The human backups were inefficient, Kellick snapped. The human backups would have contained this, Elder Mira said quietly from her platform. The Quillen had maintained their friendship with humanity even after the separation. They would have isolated the failure, rerouted power, and maintained operations while repairs were made. We don't need human overcomplications, Commander Brex insisted, though his scales showed stress patterns. This is one incident. Our teams will resolve it. They did resolve it, after 42 hours of planet-wide darkness and 3,000 preventable deaths. The domino effect. But Nexari Prime was only the beginning. 2 weeks later, the Therian Unity's primary communications relay experienced what engineers called unexpected resonance cascade, a feedback loop that should have been dampened by redundant systems. Systems that had been removed as redundant overcapacity during optimization. 6 days after that, a trade hub station near Zorvian space lost atmospheric regulation when its environmental processors failed outside predicted parameters. Evacuation saved most lives, but the station, a marvel of optimized design, became an uninhabitable shell. Each incident seemed isolated. Each could be explained. But across assembly space, engineers began noticing a pattern. Systems that had run perfectly for centuries under human maintenance were failing at statistically impossible rates. In the assembly hall, Prelate Theron faced growing chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding answers, assigning blame, calling for investigations. Order. Theron's voice cut through the noise. We will address each incident systematically. Systematically? Ambassador Kellick's usual composure had cracked. Half my homeworld's infrastructure is failing. Systematically won't save them. Perhaps, Elder Mira said, her voice cutting through the panic like a blade through silk, we should discuss why these systems are failing. The chamber quieted. They're failing, Mira continued, because we removed the safeguards that prevented failure. We called human engineering paranoid because they prepared for unlikely events. But unlikely doesn't mean impossible. It means eventually. You're suggesting we made a mistake, Commander Brex said, pride warring with pragmatism in his tone. I'm suggesting we made 47 mistakes, one for every human safety protocol we stripped away. Engineer Webb warned us. We dismissed him. Theron's 4 eyes closed briefly. Even if that's true, humanity has withdrawn from assembly space. They made it clear they have no interest in remaining where they're not wanted, Mira finished. but perhaps they might be interested in negotiations. The word hung in the air like hope and shame intertwined. The message no one wanted to send. The transmission to Earth was brief, formal, and carefully worded to avoid the appearance of desperation. Prelate Theron himself recorded it, standing before the Assembly's official seal. This is Prelate Theron of the Galactic Assembly, addressing the Commonwealth of Earth. Recent infrastructure difficulties have created situations that might benefit from human expertise. The Assembly formally requests consultation regarding system maintenance and potential advisory services. We await your response. 23 hours later, the reply came. Not from some diplomatic envoy or political official, but from Marcus Webb himself, still listed as Earth's chief infrastructure engineer. His face appeared in hologram, older, tired, but with that same unshakable calm he'd shown during his dismissal. Prelate Theron, I've reviewed the incident reports you attached. I appreciate the Assembly's desire for consultation. However, Earth's engineering resources are currently committed to maintaining our own networks according to our own standards. Those standards, as you recall, were deemed inefficient and paranoid. Theron felt ice in his chest. Engineer Webb, we understand that our previous decision was the Assembly's right to make, Marcus interrupted gently. Just as it's Earth's right to prioritize our own systems. That said, I can offer some immediate advice free of charge. Hope flickered in Theron's eyes. Stop optimizing, Marcus said flatly. Every time you remove a redundant system because it seems unnecessary, you're removing insurance against the unexpected. The galaxy doesn't care about your efficiency calculations. Restore the safety protocols. Rebuild the backup networks. Accept that resilience costs resources, but failure costs lives. But we removed human systems. We don't have the specifications for. You do. We provided complete documentation during the transfer. Every backup system, every redundancy protocol, every paranoid overcomplication we ever installed. It's all there. You'll just need to actually build it this time instead of stripping it for parts. Silence stretched between stars. Engineer Webb, Theron said carefully, would Earth consider returning to Assembly space in an advisory capacity? Not as contractors, but as partners. Full sovereignty over engineering decisions, proper recognition of. No. The single word dropped like a hammer. The Assembly made its choice, Marcus continued. We respect that. But Earth has made its choice too. We'll maintain our own space according to our own standards. If the Assembly wants to adopt similar approaches, that's your decision. But we're done building for people who won't listen until the lights go out. Theron's careful composure cracked. Engineer Webb, please. People are dying. Whatever pride or anger. This isn't about pride, Marcus interrupted, his voice harder now. This is about trust. For 3 centuries, humanity warned, advised, and explained why we built the way we did. For 3 centuries, we were called paranoid, wasteful, and primitive. The moment peace made our caution seem unnecessary, you dismissed us. Now crisis has made caution seem smart again, and you want us back. He leaned forward slightly. The next time peace lasts long enough for our methods to seem paranoid again, you'll dismiss us again. We're done with that cycle. Build your own redundancies. Learn your own lessons. Or don't, that's the Assembly's choice to make. But humanity isn't coming back to save you from your own decisions. The transmission ended. The long road back. In the months that followed, the Assembly struggled. Some species, the Quillen, the Vexer, a few others, actually listened. They reviewed the human documentation, rebuilt safety systems, accepted that efficiency without resilience was a trap. Others refused, pride preventing them from admitting the mistake. Their systems continued to fail at increasing rates, each incident teaching lessons that humans had tried to teach peacefully. On Earth, Marcus Webb watched the reports with a mixture of sadness and satisfaction. Young engineers asked him constantly if humanity should reconsider, should offer help despite everything. We offered help for 300 years, Marcus always replied. They didn't want it then. Now they need it. There's a difference between those things. But late at night, alone in his quarters, Marcus sometimes wondered if he was doing the right thing. People were dying out there because systems were failing, systems he could help fix. Then he'd remember the assembly hall. The dismissal. The contempt for human overcomplications. The absolute certainty that efficiency mattered more than resilience. Some lessons could only be learned through consequence. The galaxy was patient, but it was never kind. And sometimes, the kindest thing you could do was let people face the results of their own choices, even when those results hurt. Director Chen found him one night, staring at reports of another station failure in assembly space. "Still think we made the right call?" she asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I think we made the only call we could make. They need to learn that preparation isn't paranoia. That redundancy isn't waste. That the time to build safety measures isn't after the crisis, it's before. And if they don't learn? Then the galaxy teaches them. And the galaxy is a harsher teacher than we ever were." Outside Marcus's window, Earth's infrastructure network hummed steadily, redundant, resilient, paranoid, and perfectly functional. Just the way humans liked it.